Hi, everybody. We are doing another episode of Team IBS Dietitian Office Hour. Today, we want to talk about food triggers for IBS. Oh, hi. Thank you for joining me already. Thank you. And thank you for... Oh, goodness, what did I do to my face? um, Sorry, I'm on Instagram and it's being silly. I don't know how to turn off that thing on my face. Hi, Brooke. How do I turn this off?
I don't know.
I got sparklies. For those of you on Facebook, you can't see this, but I got sparklies on my face and blush. It's kind of cute. But for those of you who are joining today, we want to talk about food triggers for IBS. This is a very confusing topic because there are so many diets that has been recommended for IBS. Now, we know per research, the number one recommended diet is the low FODMAP diet. However, it is not a long-term diet, and you should only do it for 4 to 6 weeks under the guidance of a trained IBS dietitian. Okay, I can't get that thing off. Oh, I think I saw it. Okay, now that looks better. Sorry, guys. That was, it was cute. I thought it was very cute. Maybe when we are not doing a serious IG live, I can turn that on. But today I want to really talk more about it because a lot of the times the questions we have when it comes to food triggers is what diet do I need to do, what food I need to cut out, or what can I eat? Because a lot of the times, by the time patients come to us, they feel like they can't eat anything. Everything triggers them symptoms. So let's walk through what is the low FODMAP diet, right? Why does it work? What are FODMAPs? And why does it work for IBS and also different types of IBS? Number two, what are the common issues that we see when people try to do the low FODMAP diet by themselves? What are they getting wrong? Because I will have to say, right, Brooke, I think you'll agree with me on this. I would say 95 or even more percentage of the clients we see who have been doing the low FODMAP diet by themselves, they're not doing it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll talk about maybe the top 3 mistakes that we see people make when they are doing the low FODMAP diets, because it's not an easy diet. There are so many different groups of FODMAPs. There are different tolerance levels to the different groups. So we'll talk more about where people are getting it wrong. And oftentimes when people get it wrong, their symptoms don't improve as well. And they continue to take out food, more and more food. And it causes them to restrict way more food than they need to be, number one. And number two is it's not helping their symptoms in the long run. Okay, and one of the big things we'll also talk about is that FODMAPs are prebiotics. Your gut microbes loves prebiotics, and FODMAPs is a fuel source. It's a fuel source, right? It's a prebiotics that feeds our gut microbes, and our gut microbes thrive when they get the prebiotics. So when you cut out so much FODMAPs for a long time, it will start causing issues with your gut microbiome. And when it starts causing issues with your gut microbiome, symptoms will come back, symptoms will get worse. And that is really one of the big issues. So I'll talk more about that and also help people try to not go into that route. And then number 3 is what is the step-by-step process, how the low FODMAP diet should be done. Okay, so 3 things that we'll talk about today in regards to food triggers with IBS, and that is number 1, what is the FODMAP? What is FODMAPs, right? Why do they work for IBS? Number 2, issues that we see, mistakes that we see people make when they try to do the low FODMAP diet themselves so that you can avoid these issues. And number 3 is how to do the low FODMAP diet properly so that you are not restricting yourself unnecessarily, because that is a huge problem. And thank you for those that are joining us here. If you have any questions, drop them in the question box below and we will try to get to them later. Now, before I dive into the FODMAP questions, for those of you who have been following us for a while, you know that we are enrolling our final IBS Freedom Group of 2025. We only have about 2 spots left at this time. So for those of you who are ready for expert guidance, go to my link in bio or comments group. Don't do it now, because when you do it now, it will kick you out of the video. But if you're watching the replay, you can comment group on here to get 3 links in your DM to learn more. You get 1 link will be the program link, so you'll learn more about the program. Number 2 link is our free masterclass link, for you to learn more about our approach. It's not just the low FODMAP diet. We really do so much more beyond the low FODMAP diet in our program. And number 3 is a link to book a call with me to see if this is the right program for you. If you have more questions after you watch the free masterclass, and you also get a $500 off by just watching our free masterclass before enrolling to our program. And one thing we really want people to do that before enrolling is because we want you to understand our approach better and know that this is the right approach for you, and before you make that decision, and it is good for us to know that you're ready to get better and it is the right program for you. So watch the free masterclass first. It's completely free. You can watch, it's a replay. You can watch it anytime on demand. Okay, now let's talk about food. Brooke, do you want to start talking about FODMAPs, what FODMAPs
Sure.
are?
So FODMAPs are fermentable carbohydrates, and they are found in mostly fruits and vegetables, actually beans and wheat, or some grains. And what happens is they get into, or people that are sensitive to them, they get in their gut, they ferment, and they can cause gas and bloating, sometimes diarrhea. And so it can be really helpful to do a trial elimination to see if your symptoms improve.
Absolutely. So I just typed a comment in here. We'll get to your Q&A later. And I'm seeing a really good questions already. So you cannot cure IBS because IBS is a chronic condition, but you can identify your triggers and prevent your triggers to prevent symptoms. So yes, FODMAPs, there are 2 major groups of FODMAPs too, right? No, not 2 major groups, sorry.
Like, wait, where's she going?
No, there are 6 major groups of FODMAPs. And then, of course, there are combinations of FODMAP groups. But among the low FODMAP diets, FODMAPs have 2 main characteristics. That's the right word. One is they are fermentable. So when they are fermentable, they cause a lot more bloating, they cause more gas, and they can cause more pain when the gas is trapped. And also they cause more irritation in general in your gut, especially in the large intestine. Sometimes we see it in the middle of the gut as well. In those cases, we really dive deeper to understand what else is going on beyond the IBS, because when it comes to IBS, mostly the action of the FODMAPs are happening around the large intestine, the colon. And then the other characteristic of FODMAP is that it is osmotic. And what I mean by osmotic is that they draw fluids into our guts. So whenever you eat FODMAPs and you feel like food is moving through your small intestine, and you feel like fluid is moving through your small intestine, causing gushing and gurgling, it's probably the FODMAPs moving through your guts. And sometimes it can be very uncomfortable. And in cases like this, what you need to know is understand how much of that FODMAP group that is osmotic you can tolerate and you can safely eat without triggering unbearable symptoms. What does that mean, right? I'll share an example actually. So we know prunes is really helpful for constipation, and prune juice is often recommended to help people go to the bathroom. Now, I'm an IBS constipation sufferer, and over summer during our trip, one of the things, I always teach my clients this as well. It's like, let's try to empty out everything before you fly, because if you fly with a lot of stool burden in your colon, the stool will be fermenting, producing gas in your colon. And when you fly up in the air, what happens? When you go up in altitude, what happens is air inside will expand, which is why people experience significantly more bloating and more symptoms when they are traveling or flying. Now, me being a smart ass IBS dietitian, and I know I can tolerate sorbitol and mannitol polyols in general with no issue. So I went on and drank, I would say maybe 3/4 cup of prune juice, and
Ooh.
oh my God. You see, that I could really feel the movement of the polyols going
Ooh.
through my small intestine for a few hours after that. I think the symptoms
Okay.
kicked in like half an hour after drinking that, or maybe an hour. I can't remember precisely, but I know for a few hours after that, I could really feel the symptoms and the polyols moving through my small intestine.
Oh.
It was really, I would say, I don't react to most FODMAPs. I think that was a really surprise for me. But this is why, understanding your body and knowing what it reacts to is very much key to avoiding symptoms, right? So now I know prune juice at a large quantity is a no-no for me. Can I still eat prunes? Absolutely. When I eat prunes, I'm perfectly fine, but just don't do prune juice at a large quantity at 3/4 cups in one setting, right? Space it out, or just do half a dose or half a cup or maybe 1/3 cup. But this is key to really understanding your body. Now, prune juice is not a FODMAP category. It is a high FODMAP food. It contains polyols, and polyols is an osmotic FODMAP, and it does help people with constipation. Just not so much for those of us with IBS. See, I'm seeing a comment here. I have IBS constipation. Prune juice does not work for me. Same, my friend. Prunes don't work for me. Go reach out for the osmotic laxative. I know osmotic laxative works very well for me, but of course, again, these things are dosage dependent. Always work with your healthcare provider to find the right dose for you so that you know what to do. But anyways, let's go back to food, right? So FODMAPs, two main characteristics of FODMAPs, osmotic FODMAPs, and all FODMAPs are fermentable. So there are a few groups: fructose, lactose, sorbitol, mannitol. These are the osmotic group of FODMAPs. And sometimes in FODMAP challenges, we also do a combination of FODMAP groups. So usually is sorbitol and fructose. We would do combination challenges, and that is using foods that have both of the FODMAP groups. And sometimes people do have a higher or stronger reaction when there are two groups of FODMAPs in one food together. But the key, again, is not to just cut that food out. The key is really to reintroduce the FODMAP systematically so that you know how much of it you can eat. Okay, so for those of you who are just joining us now, we are talking about food and food triggers and the low FODMAP diet today. And we just explained a lot about what FODMAPs are and why they cause symptoms in our guts. Basically, two main categories, two main characteristics. One is producing gas, and number two is the osmotic characteristics. So they draw fluids into our intestine, and that can cause you to feel like things are gurgling and gushing in your guts. And for those of you with IBS mixed bowel type or maybe IBS diarrhea, it can increase your diarrhea, it can make it worse, or it can make your stool more loose. Now, it doesn't mean you can't eat them, but then again, the key is really to understand what is going on. Brooke, do you want to talk? Well, now let's move on to our second topic, right, that we want to talk about is what people are getting wrong with the low FODMAP diet.
Yeah, I would say two big ones pop to mind. One is just staying on the low FODMAP diet indefinitely and not challenging foods. Another one is not systematically reintroducing the food so you know how much you can tolerate. I think I've very rarely come across a client that is ever systematically reintroduced. And that's
Yeah,
really important so you know how much you can tolerate.
right,
And more importantly, not staying on low FODMAP indefinitely.
right. I don't think we've ever seen anybody who were able to systematically reintroduce it themselves. One, sometimes
No.
when we see people try to do it, their symptoms come right back because they're not doing,
Mm-hmm.
they're also probably not looking at what is causing their symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing I also want to talk about is people doing the low FODMAP diet wrong. It's not just in a sense that they're staying on it for too long, that people think they are doing the low FODMAP diet when in fact they're still eating high FODMAP foods, or they're not sure what FODMAPs really are. And that causes them to have prolonged symptoms. And when this happens, people tend to cut out more and more food. And by the time they get to us or any GI dietitian, they're eating 5 to 10 safe foods that they feel safe eating, which is a big no-no. This could be an indication that, you are cutting out way too much and you are having disordered eating behavior, which is not where any IBS diet wants you to be, or any dietitian wants you to be at. Now, yeah.
One more thing, I was just going to say, a lot of times we see people that have come to us on the low FODMAP diet, the doctor has given them a one-page handout. A one-page handout is not going to do it.
No.
That is not going to set you up for success with the diet.
Yeah.
So if they've given you a one-page handout, I'm sorry, I apologize on their behalf. But you need to get more information, even from our free shopping guide would be a better place than just the one page. Yeah, there it is, the one page.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, this is our one page, but no, when you download our free
Yeah.
low FODMAP starter guide, you have way
It's
more
much
resources.
longer.
There's a swap list. There's more education on the low FODMAP diets. But I really like our grocery list is because you are looking at things that you can actually eat. So you're not looking at things that you cannot eat.
Right.
And one thing people get so frustrated with the low FODMAP diet is sometimes that one page handout from the doctor's office are things you cannot eat. And people look at it like, this is everything I eat. What am I going to do? But no, when you look at things that you can eat, it's a lot easier. And what we recommend our clients do is sometimes, if it's especially challenging for clients, we go through the list with our clients together and highlight things that they like to eat and they can eat to help them make a full meal from things that are allowed. And that is the magic of working with a dietitian, because oftentimes you will hear people get recommended diets often and they're left to figure it out on their own. And when you work with a dietitian, the key is not to put you on a diet. The key is to make sure you are successful on the diet so that we can move through all 3 phases of the FODMAP diet. And it's, again, not a forever diet. It's very temporary. And when you cut it out for prolonged periods, it can make your symptom worse. It can worsen your gut microbiome diversity. And that, in the long run, can worsen gut-brain connection. It can make your gut more sensitive. So don't cut out more food than you need to and reintroduce FODMAPs as soon as you can. And I think you talked about this just now too, is that people stay on it for way too long. And it is so true, because oftentimes by the time patients come to us, they've been on the low FODMAP diet for months. If they are lucky, so many of our clients come to us have been on the low FODMAP diet for years. Yes. No, please don't do that. That makes your life so difficult, right? You're cutting out so many foods. It makes it hard to live a normal life. It makes eating a struggle, and it really increases food anxiety. Again, it is something we see a lot in the GI disorder community. It's not just IBS, but celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's and colitis. So all sorts of GI conditions, like people always go back to like, food is causing my symptoms. I need to cut out more and more and more food. In reality, that is not helpful and I'm saying will make your symptom worse in the long run. And more than making your symptom worse, it will worsen your relationship with food. And that's the last thing we want. And we really try to catch people. For those of you watching, we really try to catch people before they fall down that slippery slope of having a tremendous amount of food fear. But unfortunately, in the GI space, we see a lot of eating disorders with IBS. Now, people don't just develop eating disorders. They become so afraid of food that they are afraid of eating. And there is a term for it, RFID, avoidance restrictive feeding intake disorder. Did I get it right? I think I got it right. Yeah. So that is one type of eating disorder that's quite common in the GI community. Somebody asked, can you share the list with us? Yes, you can get it for free. If you are on my Instagram profile, you'll see a lot of FODMAP posts, comment food, FOOD, on any of my posts. I will send you, I will ask you 2 questions in your DM. One is your name, number 2 is your email, and we'll email you the link to download. So because the PDF is quite big, we can't just send it over DM, but we'll, and you can, if you're worried about our emails, you can unsubscribe at any time. We try not to spam people. Somebody commented food here. If you're watching the live, you may not want to do it now because it's going to kick you out of the live. So wait a little bit. Oh, everybody's commenting food here. But yeah, that's okay.
It's a good resource.
It's a great resource. We have so many helpful resources for you. So it is really important, not to cut out FODMAPs for prolonged periods. And, if you realize something is, oh, I'm glad you're still in here, that you didn't get kicked out. I think in the past, people say that when they comment, they get kicked out. But we really want to stop people from going down the slope of having an eating disorder, or maybe having prolonged disorder eating, because they don't know what to do in terms of food to help manage their IBS, and they're told to go on a diet, so they cut out more and more foods in the hopes that they can manage the symptoms. That's really not how IBS works. And I think, Brooke, do you want to talk more about maybe root causes to IBS, right? Why looking at what is really going on is very important, because here is what people don't really tell you about when people recommend you the low FODMAP diet, is that it's not just the diet. When we tell patients to go on the low FODMAP phase, that is also when symptoms are reduced. It also gives us a window of time to look into the patient's gut to see what is really going on and recommend changes. Mm-hmm. And then when that changes are made, the symptoms are eased, they feel so much better, and then they can start challenging FODMAPs, and they realize they can tolerate most, if not all, of the FODMAPs. Yeah, Brooke, do you want to maybe talk more about what we do with patients during the low FODMAP phase?
Yeah, so we have people go low FODMAP. It's not no FODMAP, but it's lower, eating lower sources of FODMAPs, and we have them journal, and so we can see a pattern of what they're eating, what their bowel movement habits are like, and so we can kind of get a better picture of what's going on. I will say too, just another kind of common mistake is that people will be on the low FODMAP diet even though hasn't reduced symptoms. So either you're not doing it completely right, or FODMAPs aren't your issue. So if you've been on low FODMAP diet for 2 months and you haven't had any improvement, it's either something's that there's some FODMAPs sneaking in, or FODMAPs are not your issue. But so with keeping a journal, that's where we can see really what is happening and give you a picture of your own pattern. It's pretty easy for a dietitian such as Jessie and myself to see the patterns that are going on. What's happening? Are you not eating enough fiber? Are you not drinking enough water? What exactly is going on, so we can kind of get down into the nitty gritty of what is causing your symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially for people with IBS-C, we really look at the stool volume, how much is coming out, how much you're eating versus how much is coming out, because everybody eats different amounts, but being able to see the trend and the pattern, it's a lot easier to understand what is going on with your gut. As Brooke is talking about it, we actually have a free symptom tracker. You can comment symptom in this video or any of my posts. I'll again ask you 2 questions in your DM, and then we'll send you we'll email you the symptom trackers. But it is really important to learn more about your body and not just cut out food, because we do see this often too. People come to us thinking that they've been told to do the low FODMAP diet, and that's what they are so set on their mind on, when in reality, we're looking at their food journal, looking at their symptoms, looking at their bowel movement, we're like, I don't think you need to do the low FODMAP diet. How about we do this first, right? For example, for people who are extremely constipated with a lot of gas, and what we would try usually is like, let's use some over-the-counter laxative. Let's see how you do. Let's see what comes out. Let's see what it looks like once it comes out, and then how your symptom changes as we are implementing different strategies. And a lot of our patients, we will say, are not on the low FODMAP diets because they don't need to be on the low FODMAP diets. And some of them do have other food triggers that we would recommend, other type of elimination diets. But low FODMAP is not for everyone. And oftentimes, when we resolve the root cause of what is causing the symptoms, people's FODMAP intolerance will improve drastically. Like people will say, I can eat onion and garlic, but after resolving the root cause, they will be able to eat some onion and garlic and they still feel fine. So don't just cut out food, right? I love what Brooke was saying is, if cutting out food is not resolving your symptoms, you need to stop. Because again, like what we said earlier, FODMAPs are prebiotics. They are fermented by your gut microbes. What they do is they feed our gut microbes and they are good for our gut microbes. Yes, they can irritate your gut a little bit more and give you some more symptoms, but it doesn't mean that they are bad for you. They are good for your body, and you really don't want to cut them out for prolonged periods, because when you do that, you are depriving your gut microbes of their food source. And when they become weaker, you will have more symptoms. You have more gut hypersensitivity, and it will make managing IBS a lot worse. Now, if you're listening and you've been on the low FODMAP diet for a long time, don't fret. It is okay, but it's really best for you to work with a dietitian to look at what is going on in your gut first, resolving your root cause, and then reintroduce the FODMAPs one group at a time to see what your current tolerance level is at for those foods. Oftentimes when we see people cut out FODMAPs for a long time, their tolerance might be lower, but it doesn't mean they can't tolerate any, right? If it's lower, then keep eating the amounts that you can tolerate to rebuild your gut microbiome, help it thrive, help it get better, and then challenge your FODMAP tolerance again in 6 months. That's what we usually tell our patients. If there's any group of FODMAPs they don't tolerate the full amount at this time, we say, hey, don't worry, challenge it, keep eating the small amounts that you can tolerate, and challenge it again in 6 months. Because in our experience working with so many clients is, once we resolve their root cause, which we do with our clients, they will be able to tolerate the FODMAPs. Even if they don't tolerate the full amount at this time, they will be able to tolerate it in the future. And we want them to keep challenging that food, to keep learning, hey, how do my body, it's not coming out right. I wanted to say, how much of it do my body tolerate at this time? Now that I'm, 6 months finished with the program, or 6 months resolving my root cause, my symptoms are great, I want to challenge this group of FODMAP again. And most of the time they can tolerate more and more. And even if there are groups that they may not tolerate 100% this time, there are other tools then that can help you improve your tolerance to the food. But you do want to know your tolerance level, and then first before trialing tools, because some of the tools, these enzymes on the market, they are quite expensive. They're like $70 per month supply. So if you don't need it, then you don't need it. And if there are specific food that you need it for, then you want to know what it is so that you can use them when you're eating these foods. Yeah, anything else to add? I saw a question about advising on more fiber, psyllium husk, etc. So that really depends, right? If you are not getting enough fiber, then it can be beneficial depending on what your symptoms are. If you are getting enough fiber from your diet, and another thing we want to look at is what type of fiber are you getting in your diet? Is it more soluble? Is it insoluble? Are you also getting gel forming fiber that can help you improve your bowel habits? And other fiber that you are taking fermentable. Now, psyllium is one of the most researched fiber. It helps with IBS, but not everybody with IBS can tolerate it. So we're going to talk more about this. The reason why psyllium helps with IBS is that it checks 3 boxes when it comes to improving bowel symptoms. One is that it's soluble fiber. Number two is gel forming, so they're viscous. And number three is they're not fermentable. So with IBS, usually non-fermentable fiber does not trigger more symptoms. However, like I said earlier, it really depends on your fiber intake level, whether you need to add more fiber or not. A lot of the times we recommend patients changing the type of fiber they are eating from food, not necessarily adding a fiber supplement. But there are times where we do recommend fiber supplements like psyllium to help maybe soften the stool, to help it come out easier, or to firm up the stool if somebody is experiencing diarrhea. However, if you have a very sensitive gut, right, start at a very small dose and see how it goes, because a lot of what we see is people, more is better, right? I'm gonna dose, I'm gonna drink a ton of fiber and see how my gut handles it. Don't do that if you have IBS. It can really trigger a larger reaction, and it may not be very pleasant. Yeah. Do you want to add on to that?
I was just going to say, if you are, so psyllium is very safe, very well studied. It can help, like Jessie said, for constipation or diarrhea, starting very, very low and slow. However, if you are very constipated, adding a fiber supplement is going to be like adding cars to a traffic jam. It's not really going to help. So you kind of need to resolve the constipation before you start increasing your fiber intake. But it's very safe. It just is very also individualized. And we do not recommend, especially for IBS, a fermentable fiber supplement. There are some out there, which psyllium is not. So that's why that's one of the best ones to take. But again, not everyone tolerates it.
And also talk to your healthcare provider too when you're trialing fiber supplements. And then, because again, it's something that is recommended all the time. We recommend fiber all the time, but then we have specific goals when we are recommending anything. Like, okay, we are recommending this fiber. We want to see if it helps your stool consistency. Or if we are recommending this fiber, we want to see if you get more bloating or less bloating and how your symptoms are. We don't, you really want to, whenever you're trialing anything, you really want to have a very specific goal in there and then measure up to see if it's hitting that goal or not. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money, right? So you're just trialing different things, hoping that they stick. But remember, have a goal, know that why you're trying this, what the goal is, and see if it checks the box. If it doesn't, then go back to your healthcare provider and go and try something else. And that's something, we always talk about in IBS is symptoms changes so fast whenever we are recommending a new intervention. It's in our program, we see our patients every week for 14 weeks. It's a 3 to 4 month long program because whenever we recommend something, we want to see the trend, right? Is it making your stool consistency better? Is it causing you more symptoms? Or is it okay? Are you tolerating it? Is it necessary? Do we want to dose it up or do we want to dose it down? Like these are all things that we are adjusting as we are working in our small group program with our clients because symptoms do change and can change rapidly. And if you are not watching what is causing the change of symptoms, right, you don't really know what is going on in your guts. And it's more like, I'm taking the fiber and putting a bandage on, but I don't know if it's helping or not helping, then it's not helpful. I also saw somebody ask about I'm not going to say the name, about a enzyme that is studied for breaking down FODMAPs. So that question, yes, that specific brand has research to show that they work for breaking down FODMAPs, but now it comes back to the questions. Do you actually tolerate the groups of FODMAPs that they can break down? If you do tolerate the groups of FODMAPs that they can break down, then you don't need the supplements. Again, these are things, you really need to know your tolerance first before trialing these kind of supplements that can help. And oftentimes, we do recommend certain enzymes for different patients. Hey, if you're lactose intolerant, try lactate. How about instead of doing full fat or full lactose dairy, let's start with lactose-free milk to see what your tolerance level is. Oftentimes people come to us, they would have cut out all dairy already. I kid you not, we have so many clients that came to us, that just tells us that they don't tolerate lactose, they don't tolerate any dairy, they've cut it out for years. And when we do a challenge and we find that, yeah, you know what, you can actually tolerate lactose-free dairy, you can actually tolerate lactose-free cheese, and it is, you know, it's such a relief on the patient's part that they can eat some of these in their diets, and they don't have to be so afraid when they eat out or they go get a taco with some stretched cheese on top. They know that I can actually eat this, I'll be fine.
It happened
Okay.
today. It happened
Oh,
today in group.
oh, yay.
She figured out she can tolerate lactose-free dairy. Well, we can actually challenge lactose-containing dairy at some point, but now she's just so happy to be eating dairy again. And she said, "Oh, is there a list of cheese I can have?" And so she was so excited. So it was a big win today in group for sure.
Yay. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know who
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yes.
So this is a client who came to us with IBS diarrhea,
Yes.
and she has a lot of food fear, and we are really helping her to reintroduce FODMAPs, and now that she's learning that she can tolerate. And I think when she
Yep.
did the first group of FODMAP, right, which was fructose, she was able to tolerate it without
Yep.
any issues as well. And that was probably her first time eating mangoes in a long time, or
Yeah.
it,
Yes. And now she's excited to try the next group. So sorbitol. So yeah, she's very excited. And
yeah.
yeah. Yep. It's
I
great.
love that. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you see, for those of you who are listening, if you are buying these supplements and using them regularly, it is fine if it's
Mm-hmm.
helping you to eat more food. But what we are saying is that it may not be necessary for your case. And then if
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessary for your case, then you're wasting a lot of money, because it does add up, right? They are
Mm-hmm.
quite expensive. If you are, I think 1 month supply is around $70. And if you need more than 1 month supply because you don't know what you can and cannot tolerate, sprinkling on everything you're eating, then that, you know, that could easily be over $100 a month. So really understand your tolerance level first, and then get the targeted supplements that can help. Like this client we just talked about, she just finished challenging lactose-free dairy. The next step would be lactose-containing dairy down the road for her. Maybe not right away, but maybe in a couple of weeks we'll do that for her. And if she doesn't tolerate lactose-containing dairy as well as the lactose-free dairy, then we could recommend lactate. And then
Mm-hmm.
another big one that people don't always tolerate our beans, GOS, and now you don't have to get the enzyme blend, right? You can just get Beano, which is way cheaper than getting the $70 or $100 a month supply
Mm-hmm.
of enzymes that you may not need. Again, really understand, you know, what you tolerate, how much of it you tolerate, when would you need to use a targeted supplements to help you break them down. So
Mm-hmm.
again, don't waste your money on supplements. Most of them on the market are not evidence-based. There are a few that can help, like the one that one of our audience asked. That one is studied. I'm not going to put the name out there because it is one of the ones that have studies to show that they work. But you really need to understand your tolerance level before trialing these expensive supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where are we?
uh should we talk about reintroduction?
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about the 3 steps, right? Shall we?
Oh, right.
So for
Yes.
those of you who are just watching now, we talked about what FODMAPs are. We talked about some of the mistakes that we see people make when they are on the low FODMAP diet a lot. And then the next thing is let's talk about the low FODMAP diets in a very structured way. Do you have our resources that you can maybe share and show patients, or not patients, show our audience what they look like?
The resources for which
Maybe
one?
for the challenge. Well, let's talk
Oh,
about the
yes.
first part first. Or maybe actually even show people the first part, the elimination phase part, if people are more interested in that.
So,
You see, I leave all of these to Brooke because Brooke is extremely organized. She has all of our resources
well,
printed
now I'm like,
and
wait,
in a
which?
folder.
um, so where is the
I can pull them up
elimination
on my computer too.
phase?
I can pull them up. Oh, and one of the things I love in our resources is, of course, our recipes. I can pull them up
Mm-hmm.
on my computer as
So I
well.
have the
Oh, but
reintroduction and the challenges. stuff.
Okay. You know what? Don't worry about the swap list or
Oh, you want the
the
swap list? Yeah, I think I
the
have that. Yeah,
okay. Or
on
you
my
can
little,
pull up your whole binder too.
yes, I have a
Let's see.
reminder with a gut quiz that we give people
Yeah,
on the
we
front.
have yeah. So whenever we have a new client, let's talk about our onboarding
Yeah.
process too. Um, we always send a few forms before
Mm-hmm.
people start our program. One is the bloated belly quiz. So that is to assess different types of bloating. So we have a better understanding of what your type of bloating is coming into the program because there are different types of bloating. There's the backup bloats, there's food intolerance bloats, there's the SIBO bloats, there's this, what is that word? This and the
Oh,
diaphragm malfunction bloats. Um, it's a
the
hard word to say.
well, it's the no, that's the abnormal viscerosomatic reflex,
Yeah.
but
But there
it's
are, yeah, our point is there are many different types of bloats, and one of the
yeah.
first things we assess is what type of bloat it may be by using one of our forms as a questionnaire. And then we also have a very detailed intake questionnaire for our patients to fill out. And what we really want to know in that questionnaire is your medical history, what other conditions do you have, what your family medical history are, because that is really important. IBS runs in a family. We want to, there are different recommendations if it's more genetic based versus it's not genetic based. And then we also want to know about your gut motility, right? Whether it's fast or slow motility, what is going on, what does your poop look like, and more importantly, what you are eating, what your diet is like. So we ask a lot of those things in our intake questionnaire. Oh, and we also have a place for people to put out, this is so interesting, to put out the tests that they have done, the results that they've gotten. We also have people upload all of those so that we can be a second set of eyes to look at what is going on with the results. And big thing is medication that people are taking and supplements people are taking. And I kid you not, these are sometimes the reason why people are having symptoms, right? Whether it is diarrhea or constipation or extreme bloating, it could be what you are taking. It may not even be what you are eating. So these
Mm-hmm.
are all things that we assess and look at before we start working with the patients, before we even go into our first one-on-one appointment. And like what Brooke was saying, we have people track their food intake, their symptoms, and their bowel movements for a few days before the one-on-one appointment as well. So we can kind of gauge what is going on, what the trends are before we make any recommendation. I think that's what makes us very different than other providers, right? You go into a provider, the provider asks you a bunch of things, and you have to give them all that information in 15 minutes. Whereas for us, we really want to get all of those information ahead of time. Brooke and I usually meet to go through each of the new clients that we are working with to see what is going on, and then go into the session asking more specific questions to learn more about the patient so that we can, even with our first session, make recommendations that we know will probably be helpful for the patients, and also give them the right resources in our course to tell them where to go for more information on what we recommended, because you only have so much time with a provider. Being prepared on your end and on our end as providers is really important. And I think also that is probably why IBS is so difficult to treat, right? You go in and see your primary care physician, or you go in and see your gastroenterologist, they only have 15 minutes with you. That's one, not enough to gather information. Number two, not enough time to really assess what's going on and give you the right recommendation, which is why there was a survey that came out in, I think, a few years ago, saying that only 10% of IBS patients are happy with the care they're getting from their medical provider. Now, we are not bashing medical providers here. It is the system that the way insurance is dictating everything doctors can do in a session. it makes it so hard to treat chronic conditions. A lot of the times doctor may just prescribe medications or tell you to go on a diet, and that we know in the long run is not going to help with IBS because you're really not understanding what is going on with your body. But I'm saying a huge but here, you should still go in and see your gastroenterologist. If you're seeing a PCP and you're not seeing results, please go see a gastroenterologist, but make sure you are documenting all of your symptoms. Use our free symptom tracker, documenting all of your symptoms before going into your 15-minute appointment. That way you get the most out of it. We usually, our clients, by the time they come to us, they probably have seen multiple GI providers already. But sometimes we still make them go back and get extra tests. If we see red flags, if we see something else going on, we actually prep our clients like, hey, these are the symptoms that is a red flag to us. Go in and ask your doctor for XYZ test. And then we will review the results together with the provider and with the patients, so that we have a better understanding of what is going on in the body and to really help the patients get better with step-by-step intervention. Again, I say step-by-step because, sometimes it's one step this way, and then if it works, then we continue moving in that direction. Sometimes that step may not be the step that is right, and then we turn and we reassess, and then we turn, and then we see how things go. IBS is complex. It is so complex that there are 4 different types of IBS grouped into one condition, so there's no one size fits all approach. It really is a step-by-step process, trial and error, and better understand your body. Okay, I got distracted. I'm talking so much here, but
this is the swap list, one of the pages of the swap list, where it gives you ideas like if you for vegetables to avoid versus enjoy, and then how to flavor without FODMAP, so different spices and things that are low FODMAP that aren't going to maybe aggravate your symptoms, and then sources of fiber that you can get that are low FODMAP. That one of the big risks of doing the low FODMAP diet is also being low fiber, because FODMAP foods are also generally higher in fiber, and so we give a list of fiber sources.
Can you show people
FODMAP.
that list? I forgot we had that list because it's is
really
so important. One. Yeah. Right. So we give, let me see. Oh, I have it here. Okay. So it's a list with the food and the amount you need to eat for the fiber and how many grams of fiber you're getting. One of the big problems in the US and probably worldwide as well is people not meeting their fiber goal. So go back to the questions we had earlier about whether a person should increase on psyllium husk, right? Or should take more fiber. Well, that really depends on how much fiber you are already eating. And the goal, just a simplified goal, is 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day. Now, I'll give you an example. One medium banana is about 3 grams of fiber. 1/4 cup of blueberries is 1 gram of fiber. 1 cup of leafy green is 1 gram of fiber. So if you're only eating salads and think that you're getting a lot of fiber, you're not getting a lot of fiber, because salads, if it's mainly leafy greens, it does not have a lot of fiber. So you really want to be thinking about eating the rainbow to get more. And I'll give you another example. 1 cup of eggplant is about 2 grams. 1 cup of bell pepper is about 3 grams. So again, thinking about the basics, right? And this is also something we work with our patients on, with our clients on, is really hitting their fiber goal step by step. It is so hard, and it is so hard to reach that fiber goal. And somebody asked, can we share the fiber sheets? That is in our program. It's actually for our clients only, but you can DM me. Maybe we can't. If you have our course, it's in our course as well. We got a comment. Hi there, I'm from Belgium, and IBS is a very new condition to me. I'm in my 20s, and sometimes it truly feels depressing. And at times, as I've been dealing 3 months with it, I still feel aches to this day. We just want to say we are so sorry to hear that, and I want to let you know that we work with clients all over the world if you want in our small group program. So we actually have someone from Denmark right now. So actually our group meeting time makes it quite easy for people in Europe to join because it will be in the afternoon for you. And okay, a few things from this comments here, depressing. Having a GI disorder is extremely challenging. And one of the hard things is, of course, you deal with the symptoms, right? The symptoms makes it very difficult to live a normal life. That is very hard. And it can cause depression. And in fact, research shows that people with a GI condition and IBS particularly have higher rates of depression than other medical conditions. So you are not alone in that. I just want to address that and tell you, for those of you who are listening, you are not alone. And number two is, where was I? Oh, number two with GI condition is that it's a very isolating condition because it's hard to talk about. You're not going to share with strangers about your bathroom habits or your pain or your symptoms. And when people, your loved ones, your family, or maybe friends who don't have the condition, they're not going to understand the feelings that you have. Yes, I have pain in my belly. If you keep talking about it, they're going to tune it out. And we hear that so often as well. So you are really not alone in feeling depressed or feeling alone in this. This our community is here for you, is here to support you. You often hear people comment on here and there that it's really affecting their daily life. It's really affecting their mental health. But know that you are not alone, and we are here for you. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. Somebody said my sister have AAG and IBS-D. She has loose stool almost 11 times a day. We're following low FODMAP diets. Can you please help? If you are following low FODMAP diet, still having symptoms, I would, one is work with your gastroenterologist and work with a trained dietitian to help you. Diarrhea 11 times a day is not normal. And, one of the things we need to see is if there is overlapping conditions with IBS, because usually with IBS, well, I wouldn't say usually, because we have a client who is having, who was having diarrhea 10 times a day, and we were suspecting she may have an overlapping condition. We were trying to get her tested for that, except, how do you collect stool when everything's just all watery? So she couldn't get it tested for that. And what we found later on is it was her medication that was making her diarrhea a lot worse. Once we stopped the medication, her diarrhea stopped. Now, we are making that recommendation to her because we know her case, we know her medical history, we are communicating with her. She's communicating with her multiple healthcare providers about medications and supplements and everything. We could make that recommendation, and we are monitoring her symptoms as she makes these changes. And we know that her diarrhea pretty much has slowed to maybe one every 3 to 4 days now, instead of having 10 times, 10 diarrhea per day. Do not stop your medication because you heard this from us. This is not a medical advice, but you need to go and talk to your healthcare provider and assess what is going on. If you decide to work with us, then we are your healthcare provider. Then we can make recommendations once we know what is going on and really assess all of your medical history first. But do not just take our advice from here. Oh, Brooke, we probably should have a disclaimer somewhere. What is
We cannot give individual advice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But we are here to answer questions and support you as needed. But all right. Somebody said, yeah, they are giving positive girl energy. Well, thank you. While IBS is extremely debilitating, right? We have worked with so many clients, like hundreds of clients in our small group program, and really see them turn around. And you can hear on our Facebook profile or Instagram profile where our patients actually come onto our podcast and share their story. So for those of you who are watching, who are listening, don't give up. There is a better way forward. But the key to managing IBS in the long run is to understand your body, what your individual triggers are, so that you can, one, avoid the triggers, Number two, when you avoid the triggers, you're avoiding symptoms, right? So we're talking about prevention in the first place, preventing symptoms from happening. And it's not just food. You really need to understand your body. FODMAP can play a role in causing more symptoms, but ultimately they're not what is the root cause, in our opinion, in our very humble dietitian opinion. And oftentimes cutting out FODMAPs in longer term periods, it will cause more symptoms in the long run. So don't do that. Really understand your own body, your own individual triggers, and then reintroduce FODMAPs as soon as you can. That way you can restore your gut microbiome diversity. It is extremely important to do that. And not just for IBS. We know the more diverse your gut microbiome is, there are so many more conditions that are linked to this. Sleep is linked to this, depression is linked to this, diabetes is linked to this, our skin health is linked to this. So, really optimizing your gut microbiome's health is important, but don't take probiotics, random probiotics, because that's not going to help you. That's not going to help you in the long run. Yeah.
I was going to say too, the IBS Dietitian podcast dives deeper into each. I mean, how many are there now? 25 episodes? 27?
Yeah, 25 episodes.
So if you want a little bit more advice or information about constipation, diarrhea, FODMAPs, those are a really good place. Jessie's got some great patient or client stories, as well as has a lot of guest experts on, which dive a little bit deeper. So those are super helpful to get some more information, generalized information, just in a podcast.
In a
podcast.
Into
your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, a great point. Yes, it's the IBS Nutrition Podcast. If you're on Instagram, you can comment on any of our posts with just the word pod, P-O-D, and we'll send you the links to our podcast, and then you can see what is of interest for you and listen to it. So many helpful tips. We are getting so many emails, so many messages saying that, oh my God, I didn't think of, for example, pelvic floor, was one of our episodes with a pelvic floor expert on there. Like people are like, wow, I never thought that could affect this. I never thought this is, doing this. Oh my God, this is so enlightening. Or some of the listeners, they are more knowledgeable. They would say, oh, well, I know all this already, but it's so good to hear a repeat. So now that I can go in and implement some of the things you've talked about. So yes, very helpful. And okay, I think it's time for us to wrap up. Well, for those of you, who want expert guidance, we are enrolling our final group of the IBS Freedom Program. Enrollment ends September 30th, but we really only have 2 spots left. So if you want to get our help, comment group, GROUP, I will send you 3 links in your DM. First link is our group program page to learn more about the program. The second link is a free masterclass link. Watch our free masterclass first, learn more about our approach, make sure it's a good fit for you. And you get $500 off just by watching the free IBS masterclass. And then the third link is to book an appointment with me to discuss your case and see if this is the right program for you. So enrollment closes September 30th or whenever we fill up. So every time we launch, we usually fill up pretty quickly. So we only have 2 spots left. If you're interested in getting our help, don't wait on watching the masterclass, watch it ASAP and join the program ASAP. We are, this is the last group in 2025, and we are unfortunately going to have to increase our price in 2026 due to inflation, as everybody understands. So this is your last chance to join at this rate. Anything else? Oh, and for this group, you can start anytime in September or early October. And we are supporting you through Thanksgiving and up until the holiday season. So depending on when you join, we are meeting for 14 weeks. So you will get support from us through the holiday season as well. And the goal, the reason why we are launching this group is fall is a really good time to work on ourselves, because the busy summer travel season is over. If you've had symptoms, you know how difficult it can be. And then we really want to use this time to help you get better. So by the time holiday travel comes around, you will have the tools you need to manage your symptoms so you can travel safely during the holidays and moving forward in your life. And then number two is to not have as much symptoms when the holiday comes around. So if you're interested to working with us, we would love to help you. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We will do another live, hopefully sometime next week. But in the meantime, if you have any question about the program, send me a DM. I do have an automation responding to some of my messages. If you are not getting a response from me, but from the automation, send me another DM. I will try to go through the DMs I'm receiving to make sure I'm not missing any questions, but sometimes it's just so hard to keep up because I have so many DMs in our DMs. So, but again, thank you so much for watching this live, and we look forward to supporting you.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.